So, do you want another magic wand in your toolkit that's going to help you karate chop barriers, mindset blocks, naysayers, any of that stuff that gets into your way when you're out there reaching your goals and trying to be your best self? Well, I'm so glad you joined me today because I have got one of my favorite tools for you to up your game, babe, in whatever aspect of your life you need it to be. Hey, I am Zandra Ross. I am your life coach, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about your mind. Well, we know that's where it's all going on, right? So, I want to talk to you today about emotional intelligence. So, you guys know I love the color code. I love personality assessments. I love getting to know yourself better. But I never explained really why. I don't think anyway. I kind of look back and I touch on it. Really, at the heart of it, it's growing your emotional intelligence. And this is my favorite topic. This is what my consulting business is based on. And really, this is what my coaching business is based on. As I've been trying to really, what's the word, hone down into what I am really supposed to be doing, my ideal client, my avatar, my purpose in the world. And it really comes down to helping people grow their emotional intelligence. So, what does that mean for me and you and everyone else in the world? So, what is emotional intelligence? It was a coined term, kind of the godfather of emotional intelligence is Daniel Goleman. And he coined this term, and people have adapted different formats of it, but really it comes down to 4 or 5 components, depending on what you think, depending on what you've read or where you've gotten your learning from about this. But I find that if they overlay each other anyway. So what I'm going to start talking about, emotional intelligence, what is it and why is it important to you? Emotional intelligence is the ability for you to know and understand and manage your own emotions, as well as understanding and sometimes being able to manage the emotions of other people in the best way possible. So I'm talking about influencing people to do the best thing for them, or encouraging, or whatever you want to call it. So, whether it's your kids, helping them decide on what school they want to do, your employee, trying to help them have better performance on the job, yourself as a entrepreneur, as a leader, trying to put your message out into the world. It's really important for you to have high emotional intelligence and understand when other people are maybe operating at a different level or a different understanding. So it's highly important for you as a human being, period. But if you are in any type of sales, my entrepreneurs, if you are in any type of parenting, leadership, guidance, those types of things, relationship connection, then you really need to be focusing in on your emotional intelligence. So, where do we start with that? The 4 kind of broad categories, and I call it the emotional intelligence medicine wheel, right? And what are they? What are the quadrants, or if you want to call it? So there is self-awareness, there is self-management, there is social awareness, and there's social management. All right, 4 quadrants. It's like a tongue twister. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, social management. And there are some pieces that overlay that as well. We're going to be talking about those in greater detail. And what are they? Another way to look at it is increasing your self-awareness so that you can increase your self-regulation, so that you can know what your motivation is and the motivation of other people. And so that you can increase your empathy, so that you can really start to connect with people, help people, but also not burn yourself out and do what you need to get done. And then finally, your social skills, which can be looked at through a whole bunch of different lenses. If you are a seller or business person, it's going to be your sales skills. It's going to be your customer service skills. It's also going to be your problem solving skills. Then if you're in relationships, love or personal relationships, and we'll dig deeper into those in sessions to come, but it's really important to be able to identify the needs, the wants, the desires of your client, your loved one, your family member, your student, your employee, whatever that may be. So upping your game in every one of these areas is vital for you to have the success that you want to. And really, it's what saved my life. When I lost my sight 12 years ago, I was so sick, I was so unhealthy. And I never realized how I thought I was so open minded and growing and doing all of these things, but I was stuck. And it was because of my emotional intelligence. I was so low on the self awareness scale. Well, I was, but it was more beating the crap out of myself. I couldn't look at situations realistically and go, no, you're a good person. You did the best you could, right? Or people make mistakes all the time. Who cares? Try it. I didn't. I was paralyzed by my low emotional intelligence. And it kept me stuck because I was so afraid to do anything bigger. But when I did do so, I wanted to blame somebody if it didn't go perfectly. But that's what emotional intelligence is. It's about being in a growth mindset all the time. It's about not worrying about the mistakes that are in front of you, behind you, what's coming next, right? This is about you growing every single day and moving forward. And it's like a muscle. Like I said, even your emotional intelligence, one workout is not going to make or break your fitness level in your body. It's the same with emotional intelligence. If you mess up, you say something you don't want to say, you react in a way that you don't want to react, it's okay. You learn from it and you move on and you giddy up, baby, get onto it. Okay? So we're going to delve deeper into a little bit more of each one of these. So let's look at self-awareness as that first component, or that first quadrant, or that first quadrant of the medicine wheel, of the emotional intelligence medicine wheel. So self-awareness is really about being able to understand your own emotions, right? Know what makes you tick and what your, and I say it in quotation marks, triggers, because I hate that word and I still use it myself. What a trigger means is that I have no control over my emotions, that somebody else is in charge of my emotions. Well, honey, I ain't got time for that. That is not in my world at all. I need to be in charge of my emotions at all times. When I was a little kid, I wasn't always allowed to feel how I wanted to, or I could state my feelings, but it wouldn't help. Now, it doesn't matter what other people say or do. I am not 8 years old anymore. I'm not even 18 or 20, but it doesn't matter. I am on that journey of I don't want to react to situations anymore. I want to decide how I'm going to feel. I don't want to go through this central nervous system meltdown that I used to have all the time and that I still have now and then, where I freak the F out if things don't go quite according to plan, if I feel embarrassed, if I feel misunderstood, if I feel somebody's being a jackass, right? But the fact is, I don't have to react to everything. I don't have to be a drama llama and live on everybody else's emotions. And I think that's what the world is doing now, whether it's Facebook, whether it's news, whether it's, we all want to be just reactive right now and just like a scalded cat all the time. That's what it feels like. It's just, we feel so sensitive. But really, to me, that's about emotional intelligence, and it's about deciding what do you want to spend your attention and your energy on? Because what you continually think of, watch, immerse yourself in, is what your brain is going to pay attention to. So, because it's a really energy draining organ, and our brains are like computers, they're trying to make our lives easier. And so, what it'll do is if you see enough of something, you hear enough of something, you say enough a message to yourself that isn't necessarily supportive, or maybe it is. Your brain grabs onto that and says, hey, I want to help Zan out. She is working her booty off, so I'm going to put that thought on replay for you. And so now I don't even have to conscientiously think about, for me, sadness, pain, murder, because I used to just watch murder shows all the time. And then I was always convinced that murdery people were everywhere. And I know they are, but seriously, Ain't nobody got time for that. I've got things in my life that I need to focus my energy on because I am a racehorse and I need to put my blinders on and I need to stay focused on what my goals are because shit's going to go down either way, man, all around me. But it isn't going to help me worrying myself to death about it. So self-awareness is about tuning into what are the emotions that you're experiencing. Are you happy, sad, mad, angry, glad, frustrated, annoyed? Every day I pray to the good creator, the good Lord, that higher power to be less annoyed. Because I've realized that a lot of my frustration, my anger, my embarrassment, my shame, my all of that boils down to annoyance. And that's me, and that's my impatience, that's my road rage, that's my impatience for things to happen, my impatience with myself. And so then I beat myself up and I'm not very nice to myself. Well, screw that. I want to be kind and gentle to myself. And it's easy as saying, I love myself. I love myself. I want you to practice saying that 100 times in the mirror. There are famous speakers. I can't remember if it was Jim Rohn or Brian Tracy. I believe it was Jim Rohn said it first and Brian Tracy, famous speakers, leaders, greatest minds in the industry on positive thinking. So that's one of the number one easiest ways that you can start to reprogram your brain for good thoughts is to say, I love myself. I love you. I love you. I love you. In the mirror, looking, saying it out just into the world, but looking at yourself in a mirror, getting onto camera, whatever, right? I love you. You're amazing, right? That's where we start to fill our brain with affirmations. And that's kind of about self-regulation. But anyways, we need to reprogram that brain. It's kind of an overlap of self-regulation. If we want to stop these negative thoughts, the second piece after that is how do I regulate that? How do I manage myself? So the second piece of that quadrant, this medicine wheel is self-management or self-regulation. Now that I know that these things annoy me, trigger me, put me into a state, make me sad, what am I going to do about that? So much of that is affirmation. So putting good thoughts into your head, and it isn't just as easy as saying it, but that's a start. You need to write it down. So that's where I get my clients to write a list of thoughts that they're having. First of all, how do we change our thoughts? We need to acknowledge them. So not just saying them out loud, but actually writing them down. What are the thoughts that are stopping you from becoming the entrepreneur that you want to be, the person that you want to be, the parent, the leader, the just living your best life, man. You know what I mean? What do I need to do? Well, I need to program thoughts into my head that are supporting that belief and that are moving me towards and not away from. So I love myself as a start. I deserve it. I'm good enough. But I also need to uncover what are those other thoughts. I don't deserve it. I'm not enough. I am very disorganized. I talk too much. I am a procrastinator. These are thoughts that run through my head. I'm bad with money. I wish that I was a better friend. Well, none of those help me become better. If anything, they keep me stuck because remember what my brain does? It focuses on and grabs onto those thoughts and says, that's what's important to you. So I'm going to keep that crap on replays on. So you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not going to do it. Well, I don't even have to think about it. I'm trying to think positive thoughts, but my brain is already programmed to think these negative thoughts. So what do I start? I love myself. Just saying it, even if you don't believe it, it's the rote and the repetition of it, right? And how are you going to convince anyone else to buy your product if you can't even convince yourself that you are worth it and that your product is good and that you are amazing? So you got to start somewhere, honey, and that's inside you. So then the second piece of it is writing down what are the negative thoughts that are getting in my way. Write them down. You can't just think them because then they get stuck in there. They're in our clothes or in our fiber of our being. So write it down on a piece of paper. What are these thoughts? And it's not to keep you stuck. It's for you to see that the fact is that you are not those things. So what you need to start doing is looking at each one of those and creating a case or refuting them. You are a lawyer and you are in court and you're in the court of appeal, right? Your brain is already judging you. We need to help you see the truth. So when you say, I'm disorganized all the time, I need you to really look at and then ask yourself, am I really disorganized all the time? That's one of my thoughts. But the fact is I made it here today, didn't I? I make it to my gigs when I'm on the road, when I'm facilitating team building, emotional intelligence, and doing coaching sessions. I make it. I'm getting ready to go to my favorite event of the year, which is 80s in the Sun, which is an 80s festival that I go to in Mexico to see some of my favorite people, my Spark team there, and just generally let loose and have a wicked time. But that takes organization. We dress up in costumes, we bring little gifts and things to give each other. So that takes organization. I've raised 2 children, they get to school, right? I keep groceries in our fridge. Well, that's helped with my husband too. But hey, I was together enough that I picked up a pretty dang wonderful man in my life. And I hope that's because I'm a good person too. Do you see what I mean? So you need to actually write some evidence of how these things aren't true. And if you're struggling, talk to someone that cares about you, that thinks you're crazy for thinking these thoughts. They can help give you a million ideas of how they've seen you be awesome in these areas. And then that's another piece is I encourage my clients to write out a list of successes. So we focus on when we get stuck in our head, if we don't have a lot of positive self-talk, we forget about our successes. So I need you to write a list of all the things that you have been successful at in your life. And that may be, I won an award in grade 3 for public speaking. It may be, I'm a good friend. It may be, I helped senior citizens because I knit toques for them at winter, or beanies, or whatever you call it, depending. My American friends, I know, we always laugh at us at saying toques, whatever. What are those things that make you proud of who you are? And I need you to write those down, and I need you to keep adding to it. And if you're not sure, ask someone who cares about you. And it's the same with work. It's the same about your business. Write down, what are you successful at? What have you been good at? Why? Because you need to convince your brain that you are worthy, you are good enough, you are successful, you have done this over and over. And this is a way to overcome imposter syndrome as well, which is one of those self-awareness and self-regulation things where no matter how successful you've been in the past, you continue to believe that the next time you are going to be found out as a fraud and an imposter. And this is part of that programming too, though. If your brain is always going, this is it, I'm going to screw it up this time, I'm not good enough, then imposter syndrome is a daily fact of life for you and me. And that's the way she goes. But I'm working on that, right? This whole positive self-talk thing, and just showing up and just being myself and not being afraid to make mistakes or stumble over my words. What a relief. So that's where we start with the self-awareness and the self-regulation, is really tuning into who you are. That's why I am such a big believer. Personality assessments are a huge part of self-awareness for me. And I love doing them all. I'm certified in about 6 of them, but I love the color code. So if you want to do a little deep dive, go do the free assessment. And I'm not going to dig too deep. Well, actually, no, I will talk about that's the third thing on my list. Why it's so important. Thanks, Station. Good work. Man, it's so good when you're surrounded by amazing, wonderful team members, friends, Spark team, family. Thank you. I love all of you. You are amazing and you hold me up, darlings. All right, so let's move into that next piece. So why is this important? Well, it's important for you so that you understand your motivation. Okay, and I'm going to kind of branch off into 2 of these. So, actually, motivation is related to self-regulation. So motivation is really what's at the heart of the color code. What gets you up in the morning? What gets you excited? And why? So you can help set your goals. What do you want to do as a business? What do you want to do as a job? What kind of a partner do you have? Who do you want to hang out with? Where do you want to how do you want to spend your free time? I always assume people want to go on vacation, but maybe not. You may want to stay in your wonderful home and not go anywhere. Right? That's my wonderful seamstress. She just is like, I hate going anywhere. I love being at home. And I'm like, wicked. That's wonderful, right? So knowing what motivates you is really at the heart of you being able to reach your goals, of you being able to make sustainable relationships, about you building your leadership skills, about you building your sales and your relationship skills. Your motivation and the motivation of other people is at the heart of communication. That's what makes communication beneficial, makes it work, and makes people want to communicate with you and be in some type of relationship with you. Again, depending on what it is, if you want it to be love, if it's family, if it's friends, if it's business, if it's mentorship, if it's leadership, if it's friendship, right? That is when you can tap into their motivation as well as understanding your own. That's when you're really going to connect with the people that you want to connect with in the world and really create a spark team that's going to carry you forward. All right. And it's like me. I have my work business feels my coaching and consulting really feeds the blue part of me, which is my secondary color, my intimacy, my relationship connection. It really helps me to help people. And I really feel every time, even when I do these lives, this is really feeding my blue part of me. On the other side of it, and my nail business too, my little beauty and nail business that I have going on. Why? Because I can help people be happy instantly, one nail at a time, and I don't need them to come to a workshop with me, because that was always sad. How do I connect with people that don't get to see me in person? Because I got some goods, baby. I got some sparkle, some glitter that I want to sprinkle all over you, right? That's my chi. That's what I love to do in life, which really is what feeds the yellow, which is my primary color, my fun side. I just want to have fun. And that's a big part of why I started my beauty and nail business. Again, I don't need another business, but I love it. It brings me joy. It's where I can connect with people anywhere, anytime. And the blue in me and the yellow in me, the yellow blue in me, we're feelers, we're emotional people, and we want to have fun with people. We want to support them, but we also want to have fun with them. And that's why I call myself an entertainer. So if anybody asks you, what is your job title? I say I'm an entertainer. I like to entertain and I like to train, right? I like to share information. So that's my motivation. But again, that's why I went blind 12 years ago, is because I was not living what I was supposed to be. I love being on stage, and that's why I love the consulting part of it. When I get to go and do workshops for people or chatting with you, my friend, I feel like I'm on my own stage, even wherever it is, even if it's in my bathroom while I'm getting ready to go to my 80s in the sand. But you do what you got to do. That feeds that in me. And that's why I went blind, is because I was not doing enough of that. All right. So I need you to think about that. What gets you excited? What do you want more? What makes you happy? Well, I know what makes me happy. I'm going to see a bunch of those people here shortly. So I love you guys. So what do we move on to now? So now we've kind of got this check-in with ourselves. We've got some tools and resources for ourselves. We're using our words for good medicine, right? Not bad medicine. And that's what I say about using your affirmations. Are you using your words to support you and lift you up and other people around you? Or are you using them to suppress and hinder yourself? Good and bad medicine. Use them wisely. So now I'm going into the other part of the medicine wheel, which is the lower quadrant, 2 quadrants of the emotional intelligence medicine wheel. So the next piece we move into, now that I got myself figured out, now it's time for me to look out into the world, look around me. And this is when we look at the next piece, which is called social awareness. So the first one, remember, was social self-awareness. Sorry. Self-awareness, self-management. Now we move into that social awareness piece of it. So what is that? What's going out on the world? What's the impact that I have when I walk into a room? Does it get excited, or does it get really quiet and people stop talking? Do I lift people up, or do I bring them down? And do I empower them, or do I disempower them? One of the big pieces as a salesperson, as a business person, as a family member, as whatever, connecting with people, really at the heart of social awareness is being able to understand other people's emotions. And to be able to do this, it's really about digging into and figuring out using your empathy, right? And empathy is that ability to sense and understand where another person's emotions are coming from. And that's really at the heart of sales. That's at the heart of connection and relationships and all of that stuff, trust. It's about empathy. People need to know that you care. And I don't care who they are. I don't care what color they are in the color code. Reds and whites care less about care. They worry more about the facts and the figures and the details. But even they want to know that you care enough that you're not going to screw them over, that they can trust you. And so empathy is being able to read another person's body language, their tone of voice, and be able to see it from their perspective. Sometimes we say walk a mile in another person's shoes, a mile in another person's moccasins. I don't always think that's the way it is. I think that some experiences we just can't understand. We just have to do our best. And how do we do that? By asking questions. Well, how did you feel? What happened next? Whites are brilliant at this. Blues are pretty good too, but whites are brilliant. They are turn up your white when you want to connect with people better. Well, what happened? And they don't have to be like I used to be, where being a double emotional, I would just be like a bad soap opera. No, really? Oh my God, that's terrible. That's wonderful. That's like just a super drama llama. And that never makes anyone feel better, right? If you're going to somebody for help, you need some stability. You need somebody who just wants you to tell your story and who wants to understand your story better. So that's something I struggle as a double color, but my whites, turn up your white. That's what you want to do, right? Those questions. And empathy, there's kind of 3 levels. There's the one where you can just see it on a person. They stop into a room, their eyes are red, they have an angry look when they walk in with your widget that you sold them. So you can read that. That's that first level of understanding. Or the second level you go into is even when you say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? And they go, nothing. And they maybe try to suppress that feeling, or they may present you with the problem. So you go, okay, I now understand what you're doing. I'm not just imagining it. That's the first where I go, I think you're feeling this. Second level is now I've confirmed it. Now I know that what the problem is, or I've asked you questions, a few questions to at least say you're upset with your product, you had a bad day yesterday, whatever that thing may be. Third level is being able to go, is asking enough questions and then being able to go, okay, so what I hear you saying, paraphrasing is a big piece of this. Mirroring is another piece of it, where we kind of use body language that kind of mirrors the person a bit. And why? Because then they feel more trust with us. When somebody acts or talks more like you, you are more likely to be influenced with them, to like them, to buy from them. It's just the way it is. It's the way human nature is and the way our brains work. So if you can use that empathy to read that person's body language, to paraphrase what they said, to look at their body language and use it. And you don't want to be a parrot with your body, like where they're freaking out and they're going, hey, this person's a psycho, they're stuck, right? It's more about if they're a leaner, you lean in. If they're a lean backer, we call that, forward and away kind of communication. Then you lean back. If they've kind of got their hands somewhere, you gently kind of put your hands somewhere. If they look up to the sides while they're talking, you look up to the sides while you're talking a bit. And it's just so that you're connecting with them and you're able to see it through their eyes. It's not that you're trying to imitate them, but in a way it is. You are kind of trying to see the world through their eyes. And that's really what the third level of empathy is. That's when you really become a rock star and when you really actually start to connect with people and have an impact on who they are, if that's what you're wanting to do, or at least be able to open their eyes to how amazing they are. And it's really important to ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. Paraphrase, make sure you're hearing it back right. So that's really at the heart of empathy, all right? And then finally, now that we're kind of through that self-awareness piece, now that we're through that social awareness piece, it's a tongue twister for me always. We move into that final piece, which is the social management, which is our ability to we understanding the emotions of what's going on in the room, in the group. We can read the room. Social management is actually being able to act on it. And what is that? That's our social skills. That's our communication skills. So we need that for social awareness, to be able to start connecting with individual people. But once we talk to enough individual people, we get enough movement, we get enough people listening to our message, showing up for our thing, the dishes are getting done, right? Or whatever you're trying to train your family to do. We are really at that skill of using our empathy and our influence skills and our ability to find out what motivates people, right? All of these things layer together so that we get to that point where we can sell. And I mean that in the generalist word possible. I say influence, it might be encourage, it might be open people's minds. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what your world is about, right? So using those skills and really focusing on the first four things that we talked about is what is going to make you a superstar in and really help people connect with you and like you. Because I think the world really, I think what everybody in the world is looking for. They just want to be happy and they just want to have some kind of connection. Everybody wants connection to a different level. But I really truly believe those two things are what we want. And I promise you, if you grow that emotional intelligence, if you focus on these skills, you are going to be at the top of whatever you choose to do. Okay? I'm so glad you joined me. Thank you. I've got to get ready. Again, I'm going to go back to packing for my trip. I am super stoked about this right now. I'm coming for you, people. I missed you all year. I love you. And I love you. Thank you for showing up, supporting me. And if you care about somebody, please share this podcast with them. Invite them to, like this feed if it's YouTube you're watching from, or invite them to my Facebook group, Leadership Strategies for Ambitious Professionals. We have a little bit of fun here and there, but generally, let's stay in touch. And I need to know, what is it that you want? We're going to have the free link to the color code below. But tell me, what area do you need to enhance in your emotional intelligence? Where are you at right now? I would love to hear about it. Why? So that I can tailor our future sessions to talk specifically about what you need help with. All right? Mwah. I love you. You're going to be seeing me here shortly from Cancun next week, but don't worry about it. I'm going to have some more lives for you coming, and let's stay in touch. Mwah. I love you. Have a fantastic day and grow that emotional intelligence, babe. I can't wait to hear what you create in your life. Take care.